Hello, I'm Adler5, and today I will do a video tutorial on how to use as of this video, the newly released version 1.0 of the GC Pokémon RNG manipulation assistant. Or just say RNG assistant. So this is a program made to assist speedrunners into manipulating the starters in Pokémon Colosseum and Pokémon XD Gale of Darkness. So if you're watching this video, you're probably a speedrunner looking into running both of these games. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process. So this is going to be quite a long video since I'm trying to be exhaustive and show you everything there is to know about the manip and how you can use it. So first, when you come to the GitHub pages, you can see the code and everything, but also the README file, which shows you the program, some general requirement stuff. Basically, the requirements are, honestly, you just need a computer that, let's say, isn't more than 10 years old. That should be fine. You don't really need much. And you need at least 500 megs of RAM free, which is, by today, it should be nothing. So, as long as you have a computer that isn't more than 10 years old, it should be fine. And you're also going to need a timer because this manip needs a frame perfect timing, and either of these timer works. If you don't know what a flow timer or yawn timer are, they're basically timers that are made for the human to be better at timing. So when you set a certain amount of time, before it hits 0, there's going to be some signals, either visual or audio, and you're going to pick up the timing just before the last signal fires. And once it fires, this is the time when you have to press the button. So you're going to need either of these two. I'm going to use the on timer. However, you might want to consider flow timer, as what I've been hearing mostly is that it's a much more accurate version of Eon timer. But it may lack, I think it lack some features such as built-in delay. So I suggest you explore both of these, and I will, for now I'll just use the on timer, but you might consider flow timer. Okay, so there's general user's instruction that you may read, but we're going to go through the entire thing in this video. What you want to do is you want to go to the release page. And right now this release is drafted, but as I'm going to publish this video, this release will be published. And you just want to download either of these that corresponds to your OS. It supports Linux, Mac OS, or Windows, so you just pick the one you want. And this is important for later, and I'm going to explain why. But depending on your game, you want to pick either of these. For Colosseum, you want to pick Colo Precalc, and XD, you want to pick XD Precalc. And if you run both, pick both. I'm going to explain what these does later on, and you might notice that these files are quite large, and there's a good reason for this, but we're going to go through as I go to this video. Right now, I'm on a Linux machine, and when you run the program, this is how it would look when you start it. Obviously, it's going to look different on your system. My font is pretty special, but you get the idea. It's going to look about the same, depending on your system. And the first thing you want to do when you get the program is you want to configure it, because there's going to be some filters later on that are going to be useful to you. Okay, so the first setting is pretty important. Say you're a speedrunner and you're live streaming your runs and you use OBS. Well, OBS, it needs at least one thread of CPU to do its work, because it has to do some video encoding and stuff. But this RNG assistant program, it can use as much thread as you have on your CPU. I'm just going to pop this window up. We're going to use Dolphin for later. It can use as much thread as your CPU support, because it makes the seed finding procedure later. We're going to talk about this later. But this can be a problem if it takes all your threads and OBS is trying to stream. You might get some dropping frame issues. So if you want to let OBS encode while you're using the program and not have any issue, what I recommend you will do is change this setting to the most thread you can -1. So for example, this CPU supports 4 threads, well, you could just put 3 threads here. So this program will be limited to 3 threads. Just by the way, the settings file are saved in an ini file right next to where you downloaded the program. So that's your setting file. After this, I'm going to explain these when you get to the predictor part. But for now, these are important. So depending on your game that you're going to run on, Colosseum or XD, you want to configure these at first. So basically, you want to configure the minimum stats that you want. Like, okay, for example, here you can have the IV, and you just want, say for example, you just want minimum 10 in the HP of it when you put 10 here. Now, I can't necessarily help you to decide what setting to use here because I'm not really a runner of either of these games. I just make this program, but I would suggest that you refer to either some notes that someone else made or just ask in the PSR Discord or something, and you're going to get the appropriate setting. And they also may change depending on your altitude. Say you want to be more strict or more lenient. I don't know. That's on you for this. So you just configure each of the stats that you absolutely need in the run. Anything else, they will appear in red telling you don't want that. There's one setting here. Well, XD has some additional setting for shyness and gender, but this one is pretty important for XD if you use PAL. I'm going to talk about it when we get to the predictor, but if you're using the the PAL version of XD, you absolutely want to check this. And likewise, if you're not using PAL, you need to leave this unchecked, because there's something special about PAL that I'm going to explain later. So once you configured your filter for your starters here and here, we're going to go back to these later. Then you can start to use the program. The first thing you want to do is select the game that you're going to use. I'm going to start with Colosseum. And one thing that I should point out is this video will cover both games, but I highly recommend that you watch the entire video because there's a lot of stuff in both of these games that are shared, that they're going to look alike. And it's important, in my opinion, that you watch either both of these. Even if you're going to just run XD, I still recommend that you watch the entire video, including the Colosseum part, because there's going to be stuff that are going to come back in XD. It's just that they're slightly different. Now, I want to show you something. When I talked about that you need the pre-calc file earlier, the reason you need them is because the first thing you want to do is click Find Your Seed. But if you didn't download the pre-calc file, this will happen. There's an error message telling that it couldn't find the pre-calc file. So, what are these pre-calc files? Here I have the XD and then the color one. So what are these? The seed, essentially, when the game will boot, it will initialize the RNG using the value of the system clock. And you might think that you could be able to manipulate this value if you have a certain clock value when you boot the game. The problem is this value is extremely precise. So it's impossible to do this. So what you have to do is recover your seed after the boot has been done. Okay, I'll explain how this works after. But the one thing that you have to remember is that the seed finder needs to narrow down to your seed to one possible result from all of them. However, if I just gave the program like this and just let you find your seed like this, it will take 30 minutes because there's so many possible seeds. There's like about 4 billions. So what I did is I made the first pass of the algorithm pre-calculated in these files. So all of these two files contains they just contain numbers. They just contains C's that are pre-calculated. So because it's so long, without these actually make it last like 1 to 2 minutes, the entire procedure, depending on how fast you are at data entry. So I just force you to have these. So what you have to do is simply put the file where the program is, and now this. Oh, okay, it didn't finish copy. Okay, 1 second. I just want to make sure that it has the okay. So there we go. You just need to have your pre-calc file right next to the program. And this is why these are really large, by the way. It's because they contain like hundreds of millions of seeds. I don't remember the exact number, but they contain a lot of seeds in them. So yeah, you need them to start the seed finding procedure, which must be done for each manip attempt. There's another way to get this file, and it's to use this option right here, generate the pre-calculation file. However, I don't really recommend doing it because, as this warning says, it takes a few hours, and that highly depends on your processor. So basically, what I'm telling is just download the file right here. I give them, and you just drop the file next to the program, and it should work. But I guess this can be useful if you're in a pinch or something. Okay, so you have your pre-calc file. Now we can start the seed finding procedure. So the first thing okay, so I'll start the game here, and then you're going to understand what I mean here. I'm using Dolphin, but keep in mind that everything I'm going to show is going to be the exact same that on console. Okay, I'm going to pause this for now. Okay, so this is a wizard that will help you find your seed, because as we can see, I just booted the game, my entire seed is scrambled because of the clock. We're going to recover the seed, and you have to do this each time that you want to do a manip. So first, you get to see an instruction page that you can skip if you check this box, and this is going to be saved. So you can just read this once, but I'm just going to go through all of this in this video, so I'm not going to read it, of course, but you can read it if you want. Okay. So the idea of the this manip, I need to get my controller. Okay. Is you first need to boot the game as normal, and you just reach the main menu. So we're just going to wait. Reach the main menu. Okay, I'm going to lower the sound because it's a bit loud on my end. That should be enough. We don't really need sound like this. You want to go to Battle Now. Then Single Battle. Ultimate. Oh, by the way, when you come to this menu, never back out of this menu until you're absolutely done, because there's some RNG going on when you get to this menu. So never go back to the main menu until you're absolutely done and you know what you're going to get with the predictor after. So first so Battle Now, Single Battle, Ultimate. Now you're going never accept the prompt here, but the idea is on each, I'm just going to pause because of the sound here. On each battle confirmation, you're going to see the preview of what the battle will look like, because this mode essentially it generates a random battle between you and the computer. And what you want to do, oh yeah, Dolphin has a little thing when you, yeah, but we can see here it says set and Blaziken. You simply enter the information here. Choose your generated trainer team, we say set. Choose a leader of your generated team, we say Blaziken, and then you click next pass. What this is going to do is it's going to go to all the seed. Well, the first pass will just use the pre-calc file, so it's going to be instant like that. You didn't have time to see. You almost didn't have time to see the progress bar. So thanks to the pre-calculation file, this it was instant. And for each of these paths, what you want to do is back out. Never accept it, by the way. If you accept this, you have to soft reset because it breaks everything. Same if you go back to the main menu, it breaks everything. So just be careful. So you will go back, select ultimate again, and then you see a new thing. So you select it here, set, and where is it? Meganium. Okay. This one is going to be slightly longer, but you're going to see it's going to be pretty fast. There we go. Okay, so you see here that what it does is, depending on the information you give to the program, it's going to narrow down the possible result from all the seeds that can happen. Eventually, if you do this, I think it's on average 8 passes. You're going to only have 1 seed left. And that's it. You recovered your seed. So we just need to do this over and over. Thomas, Metagross. See, we now have 12,000 something result. Wes Blaziken. Set Blaziken. Thomas, Hero Cross. And there we go. That's it. If you see this screen and you see your current seed is whatever, that means it succeeded. So, otherwise, if you see that you couldn't find your seed, most likely you would have entered something incorrectly. If you're absolutely sure that everything was correct, you probably want to contact me on the PSR Discord or something. Because it should not happen. This program should always be... This seed finder should always be able to get your seed right. If you didn't do an error when entering the data, it should always find it no matter what. Okay, that's a guarantee. It should always find it. But here we can see it succeeded. And this number right here is currently the seed in the game. And now it tells you how the predictor works. And the stat reporter, which I'm going to explain now. So when you click finish, you're going to see a bunch of stuff. Now, since you configured your setting before with your filters and all, you might see some red here. In fact, they update when you change the settings. So here I can put something like this, say that, whatever. Again, I can't really help you with these. You might have to refer to someone else's notes or recommendation on what settings other people use that are good with a beginner run or something. Okay, and then you see a lot of red here. In fact, it's a bit better if I show it like this. So, what this predictor list does is when you're going to start your run, the first thing you're going to see is the naming screen. So it's a prompt that allows you to name your character here. But in that naming screen, the RNG constantly advances, and what you want to do is, depending on what you want. For example, here this is all green. You can see because the frames column is green, so everything is green here, meaning everything according to your setting matches here. If it's something is red, that means it's something that for whatever reason you said you didn't want in your setting here. Okay? So these act as filters. But if everything is green, say for example, I want this one. So I want ESPN to have 30 HP IV, 11 attack IV, whatever. And then it goes on with Umbreon, Nature, Instant Power, everything. So there's everything you could possibly want here. And what this tells you is that from the time you press yes to confirm that you want to start a new game, so at the start of the run, right at the start, right at the time you start your life split timer, whatever, it needs to pass exactly 168 frames between this time and the time you press yes to confirm the player name. There exactly needs to be this amount of frame, which is why you need a timer for this, because you need to be frame perfect. And this game is, on the naming screen, it's 60 FPS, so you need to be precise of a 60th of a second, which is why you need a timer like the Eon timer that we have here. They don't work well on this Linux machine, so I have a virtual machine to make it work here. But essentially, here, I'll just show you. If I say 168 frames, and then click Start, you're going to see a sign thing. You can also configure it to have sound. Actually, by default, it has sound. But I have some problems with this VM and sound, so you don't hear it. But yeah, you can have visual and audio cues with this. And the idea is, on the last signal, this is when you press the button. So you want to find a way to start your Eon timer at the same time that you start your speedrun timer, so live split or whatever you use. So once you have that figured out, you can start to hit the menu. So this is how the predictor works. So you just select, you just take what you want, essentially. And obviously, your current seed is always going to be different because of that clock. So the prediction will vary depending on your seed that you got. Now I need to explain the concept of rerolls because, and this is actually pretty common, but most of the time it can happen that all of this is red when you get to here. It is actually pretty common from in practice when I see speedruns. They tend to use settings that are quite strict because you can manip, and all of these tends to be red. In fact, you can actually hide the red by clicking here, and then you just see the greens. That's all you see. So you just see the one that you want. But usually, if there's green, the most I saw was like 4 or 5, and these tends to be pretty rare. Normally, you would see 1 or 2, usually, maybe 3, but these tend to be quite rare. And what do you do if all of these are red? Well, now I need to introduce the concept of reroll. So what you can do is you can scramble the RNG further by just backing out of this screen and generating another team. It doesn't matter what information they will pop out because the program has your scene now. It can track everything. So you can just what we call a reroll, which is backing out and generating another battle team, an additional one. This is what the reroll button does. And there's an account that keeps track of it. So, for example, if I do a reroll here, it changes your seed, it has a reroll count. And now, if I want the game to match this, I have to back out and go back in again. Now the game matches, now the seed of the game matches what the program reports me, and the prediction changes accordingly. Okay. However, if you're a speedrunner, you're mostly going to use the auto reroll button. What this does is it will keep re-rolling until there's at least one of these frames that are green, meaning that you want it. For example, if I put more strict setting because these are not strict enough, say this, and I click re-roll, and then I check this, you're going to see there's nothing. And yeah, like for example here, it took 3 rerolls, but it can take a while for this. So instead of just rerolling manually, and it can get bad. Like you could go with hundreds of reroll with this. It can get pretty ugly. So what you can just do is click the auto reroll button, and then it will keep rerolling until you see a green, and then it says here after 2 rerolls, it's our prediction. The prediction will be updated. It's updated when you click OK, by the way. And here's some helpful info. Sorry. On the last confirmation screen, if you want to make sure that you've done the correct amount of rerolls, you can double check with this. So the name on the last confirmation screen should be set, and the team leader should be Makers. Now, if I add these, I think it makes 8 rerolls, but whatever. I can just reroll until you see this. Here, it doesn't match. Okay. We have set Metagross. Actually, I'm not sure if I kept track. Whatever. I think this is fine. If it's not, I can always retry it. Whatever. But yeah, you should see these match what you see here. And then you can click OK, and then you see your prediction. Now, it can be helpful after you've started your run, try to time yourself. You might want to see by if you're off, you might want to see by how off you are. So maybe you 1 frame too late, 1 frame too early, whatever. There's a helpful feature when if you select your seed and then uncheck, it's going to auto scroll it, so we can see all the info around it. This needs to be expanded. 1 second. Okay. And then you can see all the frames around it. So you can check by HP stat, trainer ID, whatever method you use. It's actually a bit faster to use the HP stat, but it's not always reliable, while the trainer IDs, there's like 1 in 65,565 chance to be wrong. So yeah, it's pretty reliable to use the trainer ID, but it's a bit slower because you have to check the summary, whatever. And now this is where before I go to store and restore seed, this is where these settings comes in. The amount of time to generate prediction in a second. This correspond to the maximum amount of time you're willing to lose because of the manip timing. So for example, here it's 10 seconds, but if you're okay to incur a loss of say 20 seconds, 30 seconds, then you can increase this number. I've set to apply to the amount of frame the predictor. This is mostly because in theory, there should always be the same amount of frame between the time you confirm new game and the time you confirm the name. But it can happen, for example, if your TV lags or something, that the amount of time isn't necessarily matching what you see here. Or maybe there's other reasons. So what you can do is just apply a delay. It can be negative, it can be positive, whatever. The frame timing will all adjust with this delay. And finally, number of maximum rerolls. This is because the maximum here is like 10,000. This takes about, I want to say 30 seconds to a minute, because it has to keep rerolling. It's not necessarily the easiest of tasks, so it can take a while. This program can do about 1,000 rerolls every 2-3 seconds. But if, for example, you say, well, this is annoying to count, and I just want to save 50 max, then you put 50 here, and when it's going to reach that number, it's going to stop and say, well, the program rerolled 50 times, but nothing was found. Everything will be updated as usual, but you won't see any predictions that are good. So this is more a timeout kind of setting. Lastly, well, actually no, I'll get to this when I get to XD, this setting, because PAL on XD is very different. Instead of having the prediction depend on the number of frames between new game and name confirmation, PAL has only a single prediction per reroll that's possible. This means that you're going to reroll a lot. Like, I saw some crazy numbers. Like once I tested it, it was like 15,000. So unfortunately, this is kind of bad if you're running XD on PAL. But essentially, it means that whatever happens, no matter how long you stay on the naming screen, you're always going to get the same prediction. All you can do is just reroll to change it. Okay. So now that we have this out of the way, and before I actually show this program in action, I'm going to tell you about store and restore seed. So it can happen. Say for example, I'm satisfied with this prediction. This prediction is runnable. I'm happy with it, and I could start a run with. But I'm curious if I want to see, is there better opportunities with more rerolls down the line? Like say, 3 rerolls later I get something better. Well, you can try to store your current seed by clicking store seed here, and then you see store seed has changed here. It now equals to the current seed. And what you can do, you can basically do anything, like say I want to auto reroll and whatever. I'm going to try this again anyway. I'm going to show a full example of this working anyway. And whatever, we roll sometimes. And then I get to this, and then you can choose if you want it or not. whatever. But say you're like, okay, well, this didn't work out. I don't have better possibilities. You can just simply click restore seed, and as you can see, it restored everything it was before, and the reroll count changed as if it was before. So you can use this You can use the prediction that you had before. So this come in handy. Now, this is a module that I can't really show you because it will require me to do a run, and I don't know how to do a run. But here I'll explain about the stat reporter. So the stat reporter, it acts. There's two reasons the stat reporter exists. The first one is there's a pretty sprinting of all the info of your starters. So here we see Espion with pretty icon and such. This can be nice if you want to show it on your stream, so people can see what are your stats during the run. The other reason it exists is because each of these games, you'll get a secondary Pokemon. So in Colosseum, right now, it's either Quilava or Crocodile. Belief is mostly a meme, but it's there, whatever. But you have Quilava or Crocodile, and on XD, it's always Teddiursa. So, depending on which starter you want to choose, in the run, you have to check the stat that you see, and then you just enter them here. And as you enter them, you're going to see there's some results here, because this is going to narrow down to you see a huge word. But say I continue to narrow it down. Let's assume that these are the stats I'm seeing. That you have one possibilities, and this allows you to kind of predict what the stats should be. It's not perfect, by the way. There's a ton of variance involved with this program. It actually uses a very imperfect heuristic. However, given history, how runs have been going, it has been working pretty well. So people use it, and this should be enough. I think it's actually pretty generous in how it assumes how much time it assumes you will take before you get to the secondary. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire reason the stat reporter exists. And to use it, you simply select the prediction that you're using. So for example, I have this one, but say I wanted this one. This will change accordingly. So you just select the prediction that you're using during the run before you can start to use that. Okay. So now I'm going to show a full example. Lastly, normally you find your seed with the finder, but say you, for whatever reason, you want to test the seed, you can just set it manually here. So say I say, just enter the hexadecimal number of the seed. So I say this and then set seed. It's already going to generate the prediction. So that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to test for Colo, and then I'll show you for XD. So what I'll do is I'll do a full example working with Colosseum. So I'll redo the entire process just to work it with Colosseum. Now, just keep in mind, there's a pretty good chance that I'm not going to get it because I'm recording and Dolphin can be weird with the timing and such. So I'm just going to walk you through the process, and I may or may not get it, whatever. But that's pretty much it. So you first want to boot the game. By the way, while this is happening, I just want to explain something. On Colosseum has a particularities when you go to the naming screen, you do not want to select new name. Otherwise, it's going to break the manip. You want to select a preset name, so Wes, because it's the closest and it's faster, whatever. Because it breaks the predictor as the RNG will get rolled more when the keyboard is on. Don't know why, but we have to live with this. So just don't use a custom name. Okay, so first we start your seed finder. Now set here across. Thomas Raikou. Set Inte. west, arrow across. You get the idea. You just do this over and over, and you have to do this each run. Okay, so I have my seed. Let me just double check that this is good. Just to make sure, I'm just going to put 30 here, because I might be very off because of how Dolphin works. So, oh, I have one here. Okay, so let's say that this is one I'm going to take, but you get the idea. If you don't want it, you auto reroll. You can store your seed to restore it later. You get the idea. So, now I'm going to get my Eon timer. Set it to 487 frames. If I can get my cursor. Ah, okay, there it is. 487. Let me make sure that this works. Okay, it works. Okay, so now. Okay, so it should be good. So now I just let the intro cutscene play. Now, the simulator can fast forward, and I'm absolutely going to use it because I don't have all the time in the world. Obviously, in console, you just let it run normally, but it's just that at this point, your starter is already generated, so it doesn't matter if I go fast or not. As you see the intro cutscene, your starter are already generated, so you don't have to worry about that. It can be useful, like I said, to uncheck this and then you check the seed around just to see if you're off. I might be very off on this, but it's okay. I just want to show how this procedure works in general. Well, let me play. Okay. Now you can check the summary. HP, we have 72 and 85. Okay, so I definitely didn't get it. And if I check the trainer ID, 38839. Is it near here? I don't see it. So I don't think I got it. Like I said, Dolphin is pretty weird with the timing, so it might have been why. Let me just look for it quickly. I don't see it. Yeah, okay. So I think I was just off by a lot because of weird Dolphin timing. Like I said, in console, you always run at 60 FPS, but normally you get the idea, and you might be slightly off or slightly. You might get it, and if you get it, then good. You can continue your run. Okay, so that's how it works on Calo. Now let's go for XD, because XD, you're going to see most of what I just said applies, but there's some stuff that are different. First of all, let me copy the precalc file of XD. There we go. See, by the way, these are your settings file. So this file appears when you confirm settings. Okay. But no, I don't want to run PAL. PAL, I'm going to show it later. Okay, the NTSC version. So you select XD, and as you can see on the stat reporter, these changed. You only have an EV. These instructions are almost the same. You're going to see. All you have to do is, because the quick battle mode in XD works very differently from Colosseum. Sorry. Okay, so you go to VS mode. Then quick battle. Battle versus CPU. Ultimate. Now, the precalculation file has a quirk in it, because you can see that you On XD, you have your player team, then the computer team, and then you have their HP. However, on this, you cannot enter the HP on the first pass, and that's because the precalculation file only considers the player team and the computer team. They don't consider the HP. There's a pretty good technical reason for this that I'm not going to explain because it's quite difficult to explain. But just know that on the first pass, you never enter the HP because of that precalculation file. So here we say requires a Moltres, next pass, and then we can enter the HP. And because sorry about that. And because we entered the HP on this one versus Scholar where we just entered teams, you're going to see this procedure is going to be very quick. The very maximum you can get is like 4 to 5 passes. And again, these tend to be very rare. You're mostly going to get 3 passes versus about 8 for Colosseum. By the way, just a quick tip, when you enter the HP, use tab to switch between them, and you can also press enter to alleviate, to not have to use your mouse to click next pass. So here, let me make sure that these are correct because these are easy to get wrong. Yeah, okay, see here, it's 307, not 607. There we go. And okay, see, we already now only have 3 results. This goes very fast. Okay, then Mewtwo Latias, 342, 383, 299, 275. Let me double check. That looks good to me. And there we go. That's it. That's all that's different with the Seed Finder. Okay, these are all green because I haven't put settings in here. Let's just say this. I just wanted to be strict enough to put my phone. Fun fact, and I know this is completely useless in run, but I guess if you want to meme, you can filter by shininess. So you could actually require your run to be shiny. It's going to take a while, but you can filter by shininess and this. And also by gender, because unlike Colosseum, your EV can be shiny, and the gender may or may not be male or female. I think on Colosseum it's locked to be male, I'm not sure, but whatever. So this is why these are not here. Okay. Now I can auto reroll. 1 reroll. Okay, so as you can see, this is slightly different than Colo. We should see Mew, Moltres, 369, 322, 349. That match. Okay, so that's good. Now, as the reroll count says, wait, so this is good. I'm going to pick this one because it lasts less time. But yeah, you can see it's pretty much the same procedure as usual. Here again, sorry if this is not going to work, but Dolphin can be weird when I'm recording. Usually it's actually fine when I'm not recording, but yeah, okay, let me get my Eon timer. So how many frames? 603. Just making sure this works. Okay, and we start. Unlike Colo, you can select new name, and it's actually faster to do this. Okay, that's it. Let me fast forward. Again, when you see this cutscene, your starters are already generated, so everything is determined until this point. Just going to look around the frames. Okay. So that's it. That's pretty much the entire manip. After that, I'm going to show what's so different about XD on PAL and why this manip may be extremely hard to do on PAL. Because you see a lot of lists, a list of quite a lot of prediction. In fact, you see 60 of them per second. So that allows to really quickly get a reroll. Well, reasonably quickly get one that's desirable within 50 rerolls. But XD, because it only has 1 predictions per reroll on PAL, this is going to be weird to get one that works. In fact, it can take a lot of rerolls. In fact, you might consider either not run on PAL, maybe get a NTSC copy, or you might want to consider not using this manip because I'm going to show you it's a lot of rerolls. like I said, the first time I tested this was like I got 50,000 rewards, something ridiculous. And you remember, 15,000 rerolls, you have to actually count to that. So yeah. So here's same thing, we get 32, 04932. Oh, there we go. So see, I was off by 3 frames here. I was 3 frames too early. But here, you can see that it's relatively close enough to where I was. Okay, so now let me show the particularities, and probably something you probably hate if you're a PAL runner, is XD on PAL. So, PAL. Everything works the same way, except the predictor. So, the seed finder works the exact same. I'm just going to fast forward. Okay, actually, let me plug in back my headphone because I have it plugged to my VM so that I could hear the timer, but now I don't need to show the on timer anymore. Okay, so same deal. VS mode, quick battle. Okay, and then you just do the same thing. Trust me, by the way, when you do this hundreds of times, you'll get used to it. 285. Okay. You subdose. Good. Good. Okay. I might see it. Okay, now I didn't turn on the setting, but here you're going to see what happens when I turn on this setting. See, I only have one prediction. It says all frame and seconds not applicable. I didn't have all my stats here. The reason it says this is because, like I said, there's no concept of the RNG constantly advancing on the naming screen on PAL. So, your prediction is determined in advance. If you back out the main menu, because again, same deal with Colosseum. You never accept the battle, never back out to the main menu until you're absolutely sure of your prediction, but whatever. So the only way to change this is to actually reroll. That is the only way to change it. You cannot change it by just waiting more or less on the naming screen. That's not happening. In fact, just for fun, let me just auto reroll this. See, 100 rerolls and it was already bad. But realistically, I think I tested a file that a runner used. See, oh god, 111 rerolls. But you have to add the 100 that we had before, and it will give 217 rerolls. But that's for a setting file that I just made up right now. When I used a file that a runner used to run the game, and they went quite strict because they were getting quite good at the game. It will take like 16,000 rerolls the first time I tried. So yeah, you might want to consider not doing this manip at all, because this can be a nightmare. Because again, you have to actively back out, go back 217 times. So this is why this setting exists, is because if you don't want to do say more than 100, then you can stop. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the manip. If you have any questions, feel free to go on the PSR Discord. The community usually is pretty open to help new runners, and that's pretty much it. So as you see this video, the 1.0 version should be released. As you saw earlier, it was drafted, but as this video release, it should be good. So thank you for watching.